Hello and welcome back to Level Zero Literacy Between the Seasons. The episode that you're going to hear today, as well as in the following weeks, are going to be a bit shorter, more experimental, or maybe a bit less formal than our season episodes. I hope you enjoy this time of exploration and experimentation for us as much as we enjoyed making it. This week, we've ranked our enjoyment of all of the games we played during Season 1. During the episode, there will be various spoilers for all of the Season 1 games, as well as discussion of topics that include, but are not limited to, sexism, capitalism, and worst of all, Dragon Age Origins. Please use your best judgment before proceeding, and enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Level Zero Literacy mini-sode.
Off to a great start.
It's been so long that I have forgotten how the podcast is named.
We're off to a banging start.
Of course, as every video game content creator is wanting to do, we're going to cap off the first season with everyone's favorite activity, a tier list.
Oh, we're content pilled, baby.
The 5-point scale is the most correct way to review anything, and I mean 5 points.
None of this 0.5 bullshit commit. Adam Sessler is the most correct person ever in the video gaming space. Every day he gets vindicated more and more by gamers.
So today, what we have done is each of us individually has tier listed all the games and ordered them, so they were in order. And then I took everyone's tier list and I made a single tier list based off of the average number for all the games. So basically, if I had a game in first place and Mason had a game in fifth place and Buck had a game in ninth place, that comes out to 15, so that weights out to a 5.
Yep.
Right? And then I took all the games, I weighted them, and then I put them in order. So we're going to start at the bottom with our least favorite game and work our way up to our most favorite game. And I think if you've been paying attention to our podcasts, most of the bottom and the top won't be surprising, but some stuff in the middle is where things will get a little more interesting. So,
a couple things before we begin. Number one, tone of this episode, dear listener, going to be super different from our normal thing. We're going to be laid back and joking and arguing, and we're here to have fun. Number two, I want to say, in some way, I did enjoy every game we played.
Yeah.
Some of them are, I think, worse experiences and not worth the pain I endured. But even the ones I rated towards the bottom, I am glad, I feel enriched by having played them.
Based on the way things shook out, it really only felt like there were 2 games that we felt like we wouldn't recommend as a group to other people to play. And we'll just start at the bottom. The very worst game on the podcast, with me and Mason rating it at 24th and Buck rating it at 24th with a rating of 24.3, Dishonored.
I wish I understood what the gamers love about this game.
It's all
You have to go
high
back,
world
you
building.
need a time machine.
Yeah.
You'd have to go back in time to when it released and play it through the eyes of a gamer in 2011 or whatever.
We were in a hole. We were in like some sort of ethical hole during this time period where it was like, this is a deep moral quandary. Kill a guy who is not bothering you and doing nothing, or don't. The possibilities are binary.
But the
It's
way
like-
you can get to the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Mostly you're just going to teleport around the side.
Yeah, you're going to
Killing
zip
those
zoop.
people, but
Watch a long
And I mean,
play.
a
Don't-
big thing about it for me, right, is that I've never brought it up. I don't hate sandbox games, but boy, do I not really enjoy playing them. I'm not sandbox pilled. I've never Minecraft. I've never arced.
yeah. I hate survival crafting games.
And
I hate them.
And like
Can't play them.
a lot
I get
of
it.
the positive stuff about this game is stuff like that, and I simply don't care.
I think you and I might have at least one hemisphere, just a completely identical brain. I've been saying for years, like, the value of a nice, tight, linear, well-structured game is so underrated, and people highly overrate how much an open world contributes to a game. People say Red Dead Redemption 2 was like the peak of gaming, and I bounced right the fuck off of that game as soon as I opened the map. I was like, I saw it and I was like, oh, no, nope. And it's like Dishonored is like the worst middle ground of those two philosophies, where it's like every level is wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle.
But the story is very linear.
Yeah, oh my god.
There are two outcomes, but both the outcomes are
Not
engaging in different ways.
One of the outcomes makes sense, but it condemns you whole with a full throat. The other outcome makes no sense, but like they're pushing you with both hands to do that one.
And I mean, I'm gonna come out and say it, like, I'm not really someone that believes in the death penalty, like for an average criminal usually, but like sometimes you just got to kill somebody, and you shouldn't be punished for it. And
I mean, the people in Dishonored are capable of far graver evils than humanity, just by virtue of having a bunch of crazy magic.
yeah.
I mean, evil still exists in the minds of man. I'm doing a jerk off motion, but like they can like do like crazy torture and like, so like, yeah, I could see like being like, oh yeah, the only option is to like kill that guy. And then the game would be like, no.
You're raising the chaos.
Life is beautiful and to be protected, and it's sacred. And then you go out and like the people who you are going out of your way to protect are like, hey, Corvo, fuck you.
Also,
you scumbag.
It's also like the fates you condemn some of these people to are far worse than death. Like you literally
the incel lady.
The woman you put in a situation where she's basically going to be like living
Sexually
as a
assaulted.
slave, as a sex slave for the rest of her life.
It's like, how
that's not great. That's
like,
probably worse than death.
Can I just kill her? Like,
yeah. That one like we're gonna sentence a guy to do hard labor in a mine for the rest of his life. That's so. We're just doing a slavery to a guy.
Yeah.
I think that's also worse than death. I'm gonna be honest. He's gonna do. Not only is he gonna die, he's just gonna do hard labor until he keels over and dies.
And his like tongue is gonna be cut out and his head's gonna be shaved.
Yeah.
So he can't communicate with any of the other slaves. Like, I don't want to fucking do that.
All right.
That sucks.
Number 24 on the list. Also, probably not a surprise. Me and Mason had this rated at 25th, and Buck had this rated at 21st. With an average of 23.6, it is Dragon Age Origins.
You saved this from bottom slot. On my tier list, I made a new tier.
I know you did. I think you are simply wrong. Like,
okay. All right.
like
get into
Dragon Age as a story is... I think Dragon Age as a story is actually like a lot better than a lot of the other stories that we've seen. It's just the gameplay is not great.
The juice is not worth the
if you're,
squeeze.
But like, if your gameplay is a 6,
you think the gameplay
sorry, excuse
is
me.
a 6?
We're gonna
Let's
retake
bring
this.
that down.
Let's retake
Let's
this.
relax.
If your story is a 6 and your gameplay is a -6, that averages to a 0, Buck. And I'll tell you, the gameplay fucking
I
sucked.
don't think the story's a 6.
The
I think
story's
it's
like an S7 or an 8 for me.
Yeah.
It was really good. There were parts that genuinely touched me, but fuck was playing so is such a slog.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you on the story. I thought it was great. It's a great genre piece. You can feel the inspiration. It can be very touching to you, but oh my god. The game is just lying about what kind of game it is, because it's like, this is an action RPG. No, it's not. It's a tactical RPG. If you don't know how to play a tactical RPG, you're going to be in constant misery.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I just put the game on easy, so I didn't suffer as much as you did, I think.
I think I played on medium.
No.
I played on medium, and then every time I would get hard walled by running out of potions halfway through the dungeon, I'd drop it to easy.
Yeah, I forgot how bad the dungeon design's really bad in several places in that game. That is true. But I really like Dragon Age's story and universe. I think it's really well put together.
The world building's cool. I like it conceptually.
I respect it. I liked the story. I would say watch along play on this one. I would say please do yourself a favor. If you're like me, maybe you're super TRPG pilled and this is going to click instantly. For me, it was like two gears trying to turn the same direction fucking interlocked. It's just I could not my mind could simply not comprehend how to play this game.
Your expectations going into this game really dictate how the game is going to turn out for you.
And again, legitimately good story. The elf arc, the werewolf versus elf arc, incredible stuff to explore. The idea that the dwarves have to maintain this horrible, rigorous society because they are the first line of defense against the zombie apocalypse. Very interesting stuff. Goddamn, playing through the dwarf dungeon. What's it called? The Underroads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
deep roads.
The deep roads. Fuck, man. I wanted to pull my brain out of my
That
nose.
whole section of the game lasted like 4 hours longer. If it
Why? Why was that not just two? Why was that one of those? You could take half of that dungeon, make it a different dungeon on the other side of the world.
You literally fight a giant boss before you go into a place you can't come back from
the goddamn-
and have to fight another giant boss.
Baffling decisions. Baffling decisions in that game.
So those two are the only two that ended up in D tier based off of how things worked out. Starting off C tier, bottom of C tier, number 23, we have a game that I think both Mason and Buck rated at 22 and I rated at 23 for an average of 22.3, Parasite Eve. And this is where we're starting to get to games that are not bad. They might just be dated. They might just not
One big flaw.
like they might just not like stack up. Because like you have to think, Lord, dear listener, we played a lot of really, really good games for this podcast. So inevitably some of the games are going to end up lower just as a result of comparison to some of those really,
I
really
feel as
fantastic ones.
though I may be wrong. I feel as though we're about to hit the cult hit zone.
Yeah.
We're in the trench of cult hits. This one's a cult hit, and I see why. This is a great story.
The gameplay is fine.
Yeah,
It's not
the
bad.
gameplay is fine.
It is very
Nothing
much,
stands out.
yeah, it is very much a product of 1997,
8, I think.
1998.
It came out right after Final Fantasy VII.
So
Yeah.
So like, it's an old game. It is a product of its time, and that's okay. But playing it today in 2023 when we played it originally, it doesn't hold up.
It did a lot that games had never done before, but then it's also did a lot that a lot of games after did a lot better.
There is a type of reverence that you would give to this game that is similar to, and I'm not comparing these two on terms of quality, Citizen Kane, where it's like they crystallized a lot of things and put them into practice for like the first time in a big way, where it's like Parasite Eve represents a jump forward in like technique and like what could be proven as a success in video games and like trying a bunch of new exciting things. The cutscenes, baffling that they are cutscenes that could run on a PS1 game. They look better than some early PS2 games. And like the exploration of like, in the early 90s that there was going to be like this scientific renaissance that moved into public thought, and there was going to be this fear behind it. Really cool.
Is this also the only horror game we played this season?
BioShock.
Oh, BioShock is scary at some points.
Yeah, I would say like it's the only like true horror game. Like Norco had gothic horror themes,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't call it's not like a scary game.
Everything was very like dread and not horror. This one was like the first one where it's like, yeah, there's a big fucking alligator and he's gonna come rip your arm off.
mutated.
That rat cutscene.
Oh my god. Yeah. That had like lived in my mind frozen for probably 25 years. And I saw it again and I was like, ugh. Like
Well-
6-year-old Mason came out and was like, ah.
Speaking of BioShock, coming in next on the list
Who's
with
next?
a rating of 21 from both me and Mason and a rating of 24 from Buck for a total of 22, which is also its spot on the list. It is BioShock 1.
Oh hell yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say about this game.
Neither do
truthfully.
I.
Yeah.
I think the reason why this ended up so low on my list is because it was just like doesn't really resonate with as much with me as an experience.
Ayn Rand bad.
Big
Yeah.
props to it was Ken Levine, right?
Ken Levine.
Big props to Ken Levine for doing a retelling of Ayn Rand's story, but everything goes wrong and gets fucked up because Ken Levine has a working brain.
Yeah.
Very funny. Super funny.
Oh man, don't you love libertarians? Aren't they the most logically consistent people in the world?
Listen, if you're a libertarian and you're listening, we do love you and want your 5-star reviews. It's just that I'm going to cut this bit off here before I anger some poor viewer who didn't come to get called out today.
Yeah, I don't know. The combat in this game felt really clunky to me.
Gunplay wasn't good.
Gunplay's not
Gunplay
great.
was not good.
There's a lot more, everything's more about your powers than your gunplay a lot of time.
The puzzle solving makes you feel like a baby because you see like a half open door and it's like, ooh, there's an open hatch on the other side. And it's like, okay, I get it. I find the open hatch somewhere else.
I do think
the best part of BioShock is like the first level going to the doctor, and then like everything else is like
okay.
Yeah, the doctor was so cool.
Yeah, so much of that game, like, and just like comparatively, right? Comparatively to a lot of the other games we play this season, I don't think about BioShock a lot.
No.
I don't like there. I can list most of the games on this list. I'm like, I actively like think about sometimes. Where I'm like, I wonder, like, that moment in that one game, and I don't ever do that with BioShock, literally ever.
BioShock 2, and most people don't think this, BioShock 2 fucking slaps in the story department. They do this really interesting twist on the formula where, like, this socialist movement starts to oppose, but not in, like, this, like, really flat communist bad reading kind of way, but like in a way that is similarly explored to the extent that this Randian utopia is, and they like have to coexist and they fight and it causes a civil war, and then everyone loses because like these people couldn't find some way to coexist, and then like you show up in the aftermath and there's like all this socialist propaganda that had to be distributed in like secret ways because what's the guy's name? The guy that runs the under Andrew Ryan would just like fucking kill people and shit.
Huh.
It's so cool. BioShock 2 is way cooler than this game. And you play as a big daddy, which kicks ass.
Yeah.
That fucking bitchin'.
All right. Well, next up on the list, slotting in at number 20, I believe, or 21.
21.
With a rating of 19 from Mason and myself and a rating of 23 from Buck, coming into 20.3. The first game we played for this podcast, Road 96.
Road 96.
An admirable effort that I similarly don't think about too much.
Yeah, I think about like parts of this game sometimes, but it's definitely like further apart than some other things. I think this game is. I wish they could make it again.
Yeah.
I think they have like the bones. The bones of this game are really good, but they needed more. I think they just needed more like conviction and more money.
I think
More time.
if I had to level a criticism against this game, it would be that they put effort in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Soundtrack is like a 10 out of 10 all banger fest. Soundtrack's so good. And then there's like just parts of the narrative that are like, we couldn't have like explored this a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It does like brush over. I wish it didn't brush over something so much because the themes of the game are great as well. Like I really like the concept of like teens living in a dystopian, autocratic society, like having to decide whether it's better to leave or try to make their country better. Because that's like, I think that's a message that would resonate with a lot of teenagers. But the actual execution, I think, ends up just falling short, short of what they wanted.
it waffles.
Yeah.
They waffle. They don't like remain really steady in their conviction. And like, even if it was something that I didn't necessarily agree with, I would appreciate sticking to your convictions before trying to do this like wibbly little middle ground thing they do. I do think like a lot of the characters in the game are really well written and interesting.
We love John.
I think about Stan and Mitch a lot.
Stan and Mitch
are great. What's the boy genius and the cop? Fanny and
I don't remember.
Jake?
That. Jake's might be
Jake, maybe?
Fanny and Jake, I think. That's a really interesting dynamic. Yeah. That's like if you wrote like a book about that, a guy, a kid gets adopted after his revolutionary parents are killed by a member of the armed forces that killed them. That's really interesting. She has to like have this crisis of conscience and stuff. And it's like,
Also, there's a serial killer.
yeah. In the game, it's like, and they all lived happily ever after. I was like, well, this game is about.
There's not. They don't do a lot of nuance. I
No.
think that's probably the long and short of it. Is like they wibble and wobble, but the nuance is not. Like they could do that as long as it was nuanced, but I think they lose that a little bit. Yeah. All right, coming in at number 20 with a rating of 23 from Mason, 18 from Buck, and 17 from myself for a 19.3. It is Before Your Eyes.
Asterisk on my rating. I had a terrible experience because I am a glasses wearer.
Yeah, the glasses wearing experience is bad, so I had
bad.
to use a controller. I would recommend this experience to most people who can handle it properly.
Yeah, I think it's a good. I think that's the big. I think what you said there is the big key. It is an experience. It's not really a game.
Yeah.
I think it is an interactive piece of media.
It's not a game, but they do have a list of achievements, and the way you achieve them all is leaving your eyes open a painfully long amount of time. Fuck were they doing on that
gamer.
one? They were not cooking. They were not cooking.
Look at it. Look at it.
Like fucking you need to have one of those crazy dudes from Bird Box holding your eyes open so you can get the fucking Chivos. It's fucking ridiculous.
This game is just eclipsed by other games we played, because this game is about like death, the fear of death, coming to terms with mortality, but like, you know, other games did it better. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this is a game where it is make or break by the gimmick, and for you two, the gimmick broke because it just didn't function. And even for me, I mean, I had it pretty low because as much as this game like touched me emotionally, it's short, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with the game only being 90 minutes. But as a result of that, I'm not going to get to know these characters as much. I'm not going to connect to the world as much. There is like limitations that happen as a result of a game being so short, right?
And the characters are cool. Like the boatman, very interesting. The little girl you meet, very cool. Wish we, the was it cat, the little baby cat.
Yeah,
Man, they did good on character writing.
they're memorable. The characters that are there are very memorable, but they're not.
Every character has one page of writing.
Yeah, they're
double-spaced.
not deep because there's not time to flesh them out. They work off of like preconceived notions that most people have experienced. Your parents, your best friend when you're a kid, who you have a little bit of a crush on. These things. You have big aspirations that aren't necessarily in line with like living a good life, like being an artist. You know what I mean? Like these are all things that the average person thinks about on a daily basis. And so they're able to just kind of plant that. Again, nothing wrong with that. But I think it is a little, it's less of something that I want to experience. I want to get immersed in a new world and a new set of experiences that are not similar to my own to get into a game, All right. Next up on the list, so that was the end of C tier. Now we're moving into the bottom of B tier. All right.
Which, great news. Most of the games we played are in the really good half.
Yeah.
Not half. I mean, it's like it's not bell curve distributed. I think most of us put things in like A or B.
So coming in at number 19, with Mason rating it at a 20, Buck rating it at a 17, and I rated it at a 16 with a 17.6 is Citizen Sleeper.
We just talked about this game.
It was very recent.
Yeah.
There's a lot to enjoy about this game story-wise, and a lot less for me personally gameplay-wise.
Yeah. You had said as much during the episode that the
Yeah.
gameplay had like irked you throughout the entire time.
Yeah. And I'm glad that it gets a lot of hype. I'm glad that they got the financing they need to make a sequel, and maybe they can impress me a little bit more next time.
This one is like Before Your Eyes in that the cast of characters is really charming and quirky. Unlike Before Your Eyes, all these characters get time to breathe and have time in the spotlight. That works to its credit, in my opinion.
Yeah. I also think the world building in Citizen Sleeper is like pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Yes.
I think the concepts that they put forth are very fascinating, and make me like I want to engage with the world of Citizen Sleeper because everything is just so interesting. Everything about the world is so interesting, you know. The fact that people have like probes and like weld robot parts to their body and like
If I had to level a criticism against this game, is that they kind of tried a little too much. Just a little bit too much. It's like, why do I got to do inventory management and data management and like dice management?
It
and
very
have a
much
health
has
bar?
like
It's like ugh.
it has like a lot of like first game woes where it's
Yeah.
like you can tell this is like the first game Elias people made and they wanted to like implement all of the ideas that they had, but they didn't think about like necessarily think about how that would impact the player experience, right? You know,
And as y'all told me, it doesn't have to be about having fun. Sometimes game mechanics communicate a struggle or a hardship or a pain, but like
games are also supposed to be fun.
I gotta
you
play
know,
it
to an extent.
I gotta play it for 15
I know you
hours.
sent us that video about games have to be fun, but you know. All right. Next up on the list, coming in at number 18, we have The Outer Worlds, which Mason had a 17, Buck had at a 12, and I had it 22nd for a 17 rating.
Is this our widest range so far?
So far, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like this game, but also I know my experience is wildly different from y'all's too. And I talked about it on the podcast.
It's like pretty good. It's just like the thing that like drops it down the most to me is putting published by Obsidian on it. It's like, fuck, man, you guys can do better.
You know, I had a lot of fun playing this video game.
Yeah.
Is
I did too. I've also,
is
fun fact, Haley and I are playing through the DLC right now, just infinitely better.
yeah.
They're funnier. The world building implications are higher stakes. The missions are more interesting and varied. We're doing like there's a whole DLC that's just a murder mystery, and your dialogue options get to lean into being a noir detective, where you're like all your dialogue options are like grabs a cigarette, toots. I need to get. It's like that's so funny. Like, why did we wait for if that was just like a normal plan? That'd be so good. But yeah, I mean, like the DLC is like way better than what we played for the podcast, and that's sad because I know that they had it in them.
Which, by the way, that makes me really hopeful for Outer Wilds 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or Outer Worlds 2.
That game is going to be really good. I hope. My personal hope is they're going to nail it in 2.
Maybe we should play LA Noire for the playlist or for the podcast.
I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah,
We haven't played a Rockstar game, right?
No.
So
Play Bully. It can happen. You never know.
Rockstar North, right? I can't remember.
One of their divisions. Yeah, I think the game. It was one of those things where it's like the gameplay for Outer Worlds was really pretty good, but the narrative to me was just like.
I'm starting to see a theme with these lower games for a lot of them, which is like they did good character work, but they didn't tie it together into a narrative that's like
Satisfying.
actually motivating. Yeah. Because I that's the last few games I've thought about, like, wow, the character work was so good. Vicar Max was awesome. You know, I love
what does it mean to the greater.
Yeah, like
part
you
of the
didn't.
whole.
The story you told with the characters was like,
All right, coming in at was 17. Number 17 is Yakuza Kiwami with a rating of 18 from Mason, 13 from Buck, and 15 from myself for a 15.3. Yakuza Kiwami. This is the first game that tied on a score. The next game above it also got a 15.3, but for tiebreakers, I just took whoever had the game rated higher. So if it had a higher rating overall on someone's list, it got bumped due to that. So Yakuza Kiwami. Not a bad game. Not a bad game by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly just kind of want to say cool game and move on. Like it's
the game made a Yakuza fan out of me. Haley and I are now playing our fourth Yakuza game now. Great.
What are you playing now?
2, Kiwami 2.
Okay.
We did.
How were you liking it? I liked Kiwami 2.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
It really enriched the experience that I played 0 before I played Kiwami 2, because now I know a lot about cabaret management. I know I'm more invested into Majima as a protagonist instead of as an antagonist. The events from Kiwami 1 get revisited in ways that feel appropriate for the sort of emotional weight that they had, in that the main story stuff is like treated with gravity. The side story stuff is treated as kind of like humor. One of the first games that had this like tonal whiplash that it didn't make me roll my eyes, because the main story stuff in Kiwami 1 was like all played serious, and the side story stuff is where you have all the humor and the lightheartedness and stuff. Kiryu's super interesting protagonist. Obviously, Kiwami 1 a little repetitive at points, a little bit of a flat combat system.
Ending is
that final boss is yikes.
also, I don't like how the main antagonist. I don't really like the main antagonist reveal in Yakuza 1.
Yeah.
The senator or Nishiki?
The senator.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Nishiki makes sense. He's kind of built up the whole time, right? And then the senator just shows up. Is like, oh, he's actually been the evil one the whole time. I know that like a lot of the Yakuza games have like kind of a twist ending like that, but like that part, man, both the Yakuza games we played have had part of the twist ending that I really hated.
Yeah.
But yeah, the senator thing was like, I was like, yeah, whatever. It just doesn't feel important to the emotional heart of the story.
I thought you would have more to say because this was like your game.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, my thing is like, I enjoy Kiwami as a game, but like I don't. For example, I don't think it's better than 0 or 7.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Is my thing. You know, I think Kiryu gets a lot better as a protagonist as the games go on. Like,
You think he's a little flat here?
yeah, I think he's a little flat in 1. Like, when you look at Kiryu in 2 and 3 and compare him from 1, he grows a lot, I think.
I remember looking up a bunch of tier lists and ratings of Yakuza games, like in articles when we played this, and they were all like, yeah, Yakuza Kiwami is in like the bottom half. And I was like, what? This game's so good. How could it be in the bottom half? And everyone I played after this has been better. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, okay, all right, I guess it's in the bottom half. Fuck.
Good game.
Shit.
Play Yakuza Kiwami.
You should play it, but yeah.
All right, after Yakuza Kiwami comes number 16 on the list, just edging it out by being rated higher on one list. Being rated 12 by Mason, 16 by myself, I think, and 18 by Buck. For a 15.3 is Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh, yeah.
The worst one.
The worst one.
Still great.
Still very good.
Still a very good game.
Still very good, but of the original trilogy, it's the worst one.
This is another one of those where, like, when I said Outer Worlds got worse because it had Obsidian on the front, this one gets worse because it's like you put Kojima. It's like, I know you can do better, man.
I definitely understand why people say the gameplay of the Metal Gear games gets better and the writing and the stories get worse. I think the ending. I think I like the ending of this one the most, but everything else is just like, eh.
The ending of this one is the first one of the 3 that like all the characters got to have like a closure.
Yeah.
Which is like good in some ways, but like Metal Gear Solid games aren't always all about the characters. Well, I mean, they kind of are.
They kind of are.
But the characters are kind of reflections of the theme, and the story's not there for the characters. The characters are there for the story. So I don't know, it's just like a different direction. It's a different direction from 1 and 2, which are the Metal Gear Solids I like. A lot of people call this the best Metal Gear Solid game.
Which they're wrong.
Those people,
just objectively
those
wrong.
people are sandbox pilled.
Yeah, they are. They're very sandbox pilled. I see why they say it, but I super disagree.
No, I don't even see why they say it. They're just wrong.
Well, it's because they're like more gameplay pilled than we are. And the gameplay is just like it's pretty peak here.
I
pretty good.
want to save a game and wait for the old man to fall asleep and then get him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's funny.
It's a funny concept.
They were doing a lot of things, a lot of people, they got into the third one and like they kind of had these little Easter eggs and like interactable things in 2, and they just like cranked that shit up in 3, where just like everything has some kind of like little secret or like interaction with like these other systems, and it's all very charming and fun. And
I'll never forgive you. I will never forgive you for making me spend all that time getting that stupid ass gator hat, and then it was never useful again.
You never put it on.
It
scares away guards.
I tried.
If you were in water and you have that shit on, they run away.
Do you know how often you're in water after that first swamp
Almost
section?
never. Almost never.
It never happens. There's like one time when you're right outside the base, and that's like the last
I
time.
love my gator hat.
You know what I would one day like to do?
What?
That we'll probably never get to? Play either Snatcher or Police Knots.
I don't even know how to play those on modern hardware. They were on MSX, weren't they?
You emulate them with the English patch.
I see.
I mean,
Okay.
I actually own Police Knots, like the Japanese one. But
Oh, okay. I would be down. I would love to. Kojima's my favorite writer. I would love to see his earlier works. I haven't played them.
All right, number 15 on the list with a rating of 14 from Mason, 20 from Buck, and 10 from myself for a 14.6.
Another wide range.
Night in the Woods.
Low game, high story.
yeah, low
Very-
game, high story,
low game,
which
high
is
story.
why it was rated lower.
A lot of those from me in general. I do a lot of those.
You're a big fan of walking simulators with funky little guys in them.
I do.
And good stories.
I respect
I
it.
like walking simulators. The Stanley Parable is one of my favorite video games. That's true.
That game is great.
That's a good game. This one, like the writing. The reason I put it above other lower games is because the writing stuck to its convictions. Even though there were things I personally didn't like about the writing, they like set out to give you, to sell you a very specific message, to give you something to chew on, and they like really committed to it. And that's I love that in a story.
I wish another reason why this is a lower for me is I wish there was a way to experience both of your like two best friend choices than completely replaying the game.
Yeah, sure. I could see that.
I split my time between the two, and I feel like I kind of lost something
Yeah, me too.
by not committing.
Yeah.
Not committing to one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good game. The story is really, really special.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The story is really awesome.
It's very good.
I like May just because she's not a protagonist you would really see in
Fuck, I hate May.
a lot of games.
God, I fucking hate that.
Yeah,
I hate
know
that
you-
stupid
I
cat.
know you do. I know you do. But I really appreciate what the character she brings to the story, right?
Hey, I know I've come to your house to eat dinner. I want to talk to you about the virtues of not being poor. Okay, great. I guess I just have to say this now. Oh, you're going to make me feel guilty about it? Interesting. Fucking May. That's, again, really great game. I'm not leveling that as like a serious criticism, though. It's just something that irked me.
All right, number 14 on the list with a rating of 15 from Mason, 20 from myself, and 5 from Buck. This was in Buck's top 5.
God damn.
13.3 average. It is Fallout 1.
Whoo.
I like Fallout a lot.
I like Fallout a lot.
Is my thing. Like I love the Fallout universe, even though it's the Bethesda games that got me into it. The universe that they built and the things they put together just really resonate with me, because I really hate America.
As a side project, they were like, this is not going to sell. Our Star Trek game is going to sell. And this was like just a thing that they were doing with excess staff. And that this shit, it's so good. It's so good.
I just found it very hard to be. I found the gameplay to be not all that engaging, but I think that is mostly because I had played this game after I played Baldur's Gate 3, which is like one of the most engaging CRPGs, not including Disco Elysium, of all time. Yeah. So I did myself a disservice. Well, I didn't know I was going to be playing Fallout, but it's like it's one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, as a result of me having to compare playing Fallout to playing Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate 3 just blows it out of the fucking water. It's not close.
There's
Sorry.
nothing.
I think your younger age contributes to it as well.
Yeah.
You frequently had trouble staying very engaged with older games, which just like you came up at a different time than Buck and I did. Buck and I have had trouble staying engaged with newer games. It's just like a consequence of when you were born.
Right. I didn't think Fallout was bad though. Like for me, the only two games I want to iterate. I think the only two games on this list for me I would not recommend people play are Dishonored and Dragon Age. I think all of these other games are worth playing for one reason or another.
Oh yeah. I also think that like the story they tell, I'm like a big fan of like the sort of big picture type stories. These like I don't know, maybe it's just my personal taste, is like these smaller personal like interrelationship things don't hit as hard as me. Don't hit me as hard as these like big philosophical or like what, and like Fallout is just like one of the first games historically and that I played that just like hit me in the way that these types of games do.
Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
For me, Fallout is like one of my favorite fictional universes, period.
Yeah.
Like Fallout and like Gundam are like my favorite fictional universes.
Seeing a very anti-war through line. You some kind of fucking liberal.
I didn't say this, but I should have. Fallout is the start of the beginning of the bottom of A tier. So Fallout is the bottom of A tier. So
Yeah.
this is where our A tier games start. After Fallout, with a rating of 16 from Mason, 11 from Buck, and 12 from myself, for an average of 13, it is I Was a Teenage Exocolonist. So 2 really big world-building games back to back.
Awesome indie project.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite indie project out. I don't know how I rated the other games and what we would call an indie game, but I really like the story, especially that they put together with Exocolonist. I think I criticized the gameplay on the podcast, and I still like. It's very easy to get very high skills and a very good deck. Like,
Yeah.
there's like almost no effort to
The
do
game's
that.
not hard.
Yeah.
No.
The hard part of the game is not the gameplay. The hard part of the game is everything sucks.
Yeah.
Everything about the
Watching
world
all your loved ones die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say it's so refreshing. Like a lot of games that tout their progressive and diverse worldview for the past 10 years of like, we put a gay guy in and he's white and he's very hot. This game is like, no, fuck that. Yeah. Like we have,
We actually have a diverse cast of characters.
yeah, that, like some of them deal with chronic pain and illness. Some of them are non-binary. Some of them are, there's like a wide range of ethnicities that are represented. And it's like, it's a breath of fresh air to see that like represented in a way that just feels very normalized within the world of the game.
You also have like a lot of control over like your character's appearance
Yeah.
and everything.
It's really nice. It's genuinely very, I don't think I talked about it enough when we did the episode. Genuinely just such a nice thing to see. Thank you, Sweet Baby Inc., for your contribution to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are all big Sweet Baby Inc. fans.
I also love the creature designs in Exocolonist.
I such cool world building overall. Like I love pretty much everything about that game except for like the deck building is weak if you know anything about deck building.
Yeah. I think that's your kind of personal game theory brain. Where you're just like, why the fuck would I take this 4 red card when I can take this 5 red card? Like,
All right.
I'm gonna thin my deck out of the zeros, and then I'm gonna
Heyo, it's me again. Listen, before you hear what number 13 is, why don't you go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and maybe tell a friend about our podcast. Then maybe one day I won't have to interrupt you with these mid-roll ads. But we're not there yet, are we? Anyway.
At number 13, with a score of 13 from Mason, I think it's 13 from Mason, 9 from myself, and a 14 from Buck for an average of 12. Kentucky Route Zero.
good. We're getting on to the magnum opus level
Yeah.
shit.
It's really hard to summarize Kentucky Route Zero.
You
right?
can't.
You
It's
can't.
just so much.
It
It's so,
encapsulates.
it's another game that's just very esoteric and
Yeah.
weird and out there.
Cool,
But
cool game.
I think this game had some of my favorite writing
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of any of the games we
Absolutely.
played because the
Yeah.
writing is so integral and important. But like, I think the characters in this game are really memorable because there's like so many of the characters in this game are so ethereal, and then there's just like the two protagonists
As
who
soon as
are
you
so grounded.
as soon as you said the characters were memorable, the robot walking sound started playing in my
Yeah. So cool. We're just outside of the range of our tier list where playing and experiencing the game are both pleasant. This one falls outside of that to me because playing it was very infuriating. But what I gained from playing it was so much more than than the frustration I experienced from playing it. And it really speaks to the quality of the writing and like what a beautiful human thing that this game captures. And it's also a low stakes interpersonal thing, which I generally stray away from, as I just said. Still, it evoked very real, very strong emotions in me. Great game.
Good messaging.
Yeah.
But like you have to work for it. That's the hard part.
You have to read a fucking novel for it.
This is a game that like forces you to think and interact with it in such a way that is not really conducive to the average person's approach especially when playing a video game, right?
I still think about the scene, which I don't even know if either of you got this scene, where if you choose to stay with the female protagonist, whose name I can't remember right now, on the boat and just sitting and like watching the tapes and reading the descriptions of all the different tapes that she's looking at while she's on the boat. That, like, you know, there's no gameplay there. You're literally just sitting there reading. But like, I had a really good time doing that.
I got off the boat every time.
Yeah.
Can
you personally speak to the captivity of the things on those tapes?
So a lot of it was like world building style stuff. I think a lot of like what was described on the tape is similar to like the tapes that were stored in the studio.
Like everything on the tape was like.
So there was like wildlife watching.
everything on that tape.
I'm setting you up for everything on that tape.
Was wild.
I think about that line read a lot.
Sometimes Sam and I are just sitting in Discord and one of us will just say it and the other one will go wild.
All right, so coming in at number 12. Another big spread on this one with a 6 from Mason, a 19 from Buck, and an 11 from myself for an average of 12. Spec Ops: The Line.
All right, this is it.
Also,
this is where Buck and I fight.
No, this is right. Never mind.
I mean,
it's hard.
I don't know where our difference is coming from. I think I don't like shooters.
That might be it. I think it is really hard to do a satire of something that is so culturally normalized in a way that both makes sense and remains culturally relevant long after that the cultural relevance of the thing you're lampooning has faded. And Spec Ops: The Line not only tells like a really harrowing story about United States involvement in the Middle East, the effects of which we still feel geopolitically to this day, but also acts as a really, really cleverly written and emotionally gripping satire of the third-person cover shooter from the 2010s. And I loved the story so much.
Yeah. I honestly think I agree with all those things you said. I didn't like I can't even say I didn't enjoy playing the game. I guess maybe the most accurate thing to say is I felt nothing playing the game.
Right.
And what I mean by I felt nothing is I was simply I was simply engaging with the game, but there was nothing about the actual gameplay that I loved.
Just like an emotional neutrality to it, to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not to me. It's probably just a difference in our taste.
Yeah. I grew up like the first shooter I ever played was Halo 3. Well, I guess technically the first shooter I ever played was GoldenEye, but I didn't play that. I didn't play that game that much. The first shooter I really played was Halo 3.
That is a wild place to start for shooters.
Yeah. So I kind of
What's it like to have been disappointed by every other shooter?
Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing is like I was forged in the flames of like growing up when shooters were like that was like the main game to be playing, like game genre to be playing. So shooters for me I'm just very good at. And so I get an enjoyment out of just being good at playing those games. So this game was like a breeze for me.
You like grew up during the time when there was just Halo and not a bunch of Halo killers that fucking sucked.
I did play, we talked about this tonight, I played Brink. That game was awful.
That game's terrible.
That game was so bad. That game was terrible. I was so excited to play it, and then it was ass. But yeah, I liked Spec Ops for what it was. I I think part of it is because in the sphere of the cultural conscience I exist in is already very anti-war and like very conscious of the things that go on around like the geopolitics and stuff. So like the messaging of this game didn't hit me as hard personally, just as a result of already being so steeped in messages like it. But I can at least appreciate the subversion of a company to make a game like this in an age where like there aren't any other games that feel like this.
And
Mason,
this was
like-
part of it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking about all of the propaganda Mason and I have had to ignore throughout our teenage years.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, man, this country worship, like, we still do it in some places,
You're
but
talking
you
about
know,
08, like the
Yeah.
anti-Obama like movement and stuff, and then to a slight extent the Bush glazing that was 04.
yeah.
But I was a little younger.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, I grew up, you know, I'm a little older than Mason, and I think a lot older than Sam. Being anti-war was not something you could safely do.
No.
In 2002, 2003, you could not do it.
You'd straight up be shamed.
And I mean, not even just shamed, right? Like,
I mean, sometimes you would
it's-
be there's a threat of physical violence,
Yeah,
but I was
I
was a child, so
yeah,
less so for me. You were probably a
it-
teenager.
yeah. And so like it I do agree with Mason on like I think this messaging was something that needed to be done then, and I think probably the unfortunate thing of this game is that like it still didn't get to resonate with a lot of people because
They
you know
didn't acknowledge it.
yeah, and like I also see people who once watched a video probably about how Spec Ops doesn't actually do what it says it does, which is not really true. I think it really tries to do what it does.
I think it does a pretty good job of like
Yeah.
painting the horrors.
Yeah. It's weird. It's complicated.
So to you, maybe you rated it much lower than I did because it seemed like preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
To me, I tried to meet it where it was at a little bit, and I don't know, maybe it just connected with me in that sense more than
Yeah.
it did you.
All right, coming in at number 11 on the list with a rating of a 9 from Mason, a 10 from Buck, and a 13 from myself for a 10.6. It is Yakuza 7.
A lot of
Like a
agreements.
Dragon.
We're very in line on this one, I think.
Yeah.
This was like a perfect like 8 out of 10 game for me. Mm-hmm. It was a little long. I think that's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's my one.
It's long.
It's my one
very-
slight. Again, just like with short games, there's nothing wrong with the game being long as long as it's engaging all the way through. And I found myself engaged like probably like 85% of the time.
Yeah.
know?
You
But-
also played this game a lot more than me and Mason did.
Oh yeah.
You grinded, right? You tried to grind to 99.
I wanted to get to the very, very, very last Millennium Tower, but it's just so boring. The grinding gets so boring after a while. I think that's my biggest complaint about this game is when you go to fight
Joe Amon.
Majima. When you do the Majima fight,
yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, he's like 5 levels higher than you, and you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go grind for a little while.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fight some fucking homeless bums.
this-
I'm gonna go back to that battle arena area that you specifically put for me to grind in.
There are some like JRPG tropes that I find annoying. Our fans, I don't know how aware our listeners are of. I am a JRPG connoisseur. I
Yeah.
have played almost every one that exists, if it has an English translation, and so like the level difference limiting how much damage you can do is easily the biggest design mistake these games ever make.
That's so lame. It really and make it. You could make like a really cool thing out of like, yeah, this guy's 6 levels higher than you. You have to climb a mountain with this fight. But it's like, oh, actually, every level you're under adds 10% to your
Yeah.
missed chance.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't get
but
to climb a mountain today.
but I mean, story wise, I love this game. I think it's really cool. I think Ichi is a great, different Yakuza protagonist than Kiryu, and you know, I think I think this game does a really good job of being serious and being funny at different points And I mean, all the characters are so fun to hang out with. I think I love this game. I obviously don't think it's the best game we've played for this podcast, but I'm excited to eventually play 8 whenever we have the time.
I've thought about the ending of this game a lot, and the one twist I hated, still hate it. Still don't like
I
it.
still love it. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm flipping off Sam. Seeing the difference between 1 and 7, how much better they got at writing is like, it's truly mind-blowing. It's truly mind-blowing how much better this game is narratively than 1.
Also remember that 1 was originally written in like 2005.
That's true. That's true. But
Yeah,
you
they
know,
turn these games out really fast. That's the other crazy thing.
yeah, the turnaround time at Ryuga Gatoko is worrying in the sense of workplace abuse.
Yeah.
I know Japanese work culture is like bananas, but they're really fast on these. The other thing I wanted to say was that like I want to gauge Buck on this just by facial. Listeners, you're gonna have to trust me. Yakuza 7 is Final Fantasy 15 if it were good. He's chewing on it. Listeners, he's chewing on it.
He's lost. He's stroking the beard.
The wheels are turning. Think about it. You
Yeah.
with your compadre of lovable fellas, hanging out, broing out, getting to know them,
There's no car, which is a very
There's no
important
car.
part of
Taxis.
15.
and everything has stakes, and the combat doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah, it's true.
I think if you play through all the Final Fantasies, skip 15. Pretend Yakuza 7's Final Fantasy 15. You'll be so much happier.
Coming in at number 10 with a rating of 8 from both Mason. I think it's 8 from Mason and myself and 15 from Buck for a 10.3 at the very top of A tier, Spiritfarer.
Very few games that we've played made me cry, and this one made me cry 2 or 3 times. This is a sad game,
A very sad game.
but like in like a reverent, happy. Not I don't know, I want to call it like sad and happy, in like a reverent and hopeful and respectful way. And like you're sad because everything in this game is so endearing and cute and wonderful. Yeah. It's like a genuine like you feel the pain of loss of something that you love.
Before your eyes gets knocked down because we also played this game in the same season.
Yeah,
And they tread a lot of similar
shit
concepts and
eviscerates
themes.
before your eyes.
But Spiritfarer just handles its material a lot better.
Was this an Annapurna?
No.
Oh no, it's Finji, right?
Yeah, Thunder. Well, I don't remember if it was published by Finji, but it was Thunder Lotus was the developer.
Yeah, they make bangers.
I liked this game. My guess as to why it was, almost significantly lower to y'all is probably gameplay preference.
Okay. There's a lot of busy work. There's a lot of just like shit that you have to do.
I grew up playing like Harvest Moon and Rune Factory, and
This is nowhere near as
Yeah.
complex and enriching in that specific sense.
The to me the boat stuff is mostly to keep the player occupied, traveling between locations, and less about the actual like town management part of it.
There are
it's
some
a factor of it, but
very few, but there are some things apart as the boat like chore stuff that is genuinely cool.
Yeah.
Raising a tree and it takes for fucking ever, but then you have a permanent fixture that just like makes olives or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like experimenting with the cooking and then it starts going and you see it's going to take like 20 minutes and you're like, "Oh my god, I actually stumbled on like a recipe."
A good recipe.
Yeah. Cuz if it's just going to be like burned garbage, it just like it just goes very quick.
I think the least enjoyable thing about Spiritfarer is the building like having to manage the spatial thing of all the buildings. It's just like,
I think the least enjoyable part of Spiritfarer is having to kill a child. Only in the sense that I cried the most.
He's just a little mushroom guy.
He gives you hugs, a full body hug. Yeah. Why would you make me kill him? Why can't I kill the fucking nerd, the virgin?
Don't kill him. He's already dying. You're just getting him there.
God damn it.
Stanley. Oh, Stanley.
I love Stanley. You like fish him up and grow him.
This was top of A, right?
Top of A. Very highest A tier game.
Good part. Good place for it, I think.
Yeah. This is a great game. Lovely game. Also, unique and good and stylized art.
I love the art. Yeah.
I love and just like the relationships between all the characters and like the weird relationships you wouldn't expect, like Gustav, the art collector, being like your lover at one point. All right. Number 9, the very bottom of S tier.
We have a wide S tier.
Yeah, we have a
Goddamn.
wide.
It's a big S
That's
tier.
big as fuck.
It's a big S tier. So these are S tier starts with all the games that have below a 10 as far as rating numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's 6 games that are in S tier, and there's 2 games that are in S plus tier that had enough of a difference that I had to separate them out. So the first game in S tier, coming in the losing position of a 3-way tie with a rating of 7 from Mason, 8 from Buck, and 6 from myself for an average of 7, Outer Wilds.
Great game.
I don't feel like there's like much to say about this game.
No, it's not. It doesn't require much that we didn't cover.
If our listeners haven't listened to the episode, meaning they haven't played the game, I don't think we should say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play Outer Wilds. Please play Outer Wilds.
Very good science fiction story is what
Yeah.
I'll say. It's one of the most compelling science fiction stories I've ever experienced in a video game.
There's very few things in this world that are like you simply have to experience. Maybe like looking at the Grand Canyon or like seeing like the birth of your own child or something. I don't know. This is like I don't mean to say that these are emotionally equivalent to those things, but like this is really a thing where it's like, please, I know everyone on the internet is like, you got to experience it. You can't spoil it. You have to play it. But like they're so right. All those people that say that are right. You have to experience this.
This isn't an Undertale situation where they're like kind of lying.
Yeah.
No, yeah. This like no, everyone's on the same page and they're right.
Yeah.
Like, this is an experience first and foremost and a fucking awesome one.
Undertale's very good. I think people just lie that you have to experience it yourself. And you can watch people play it. It's fun.
Yeah. Not this.
Outer Wilds, you have to play for yourself.
Not, yeah. Oh.
After Outer Wilds, coming in at number 8 with a rating of 5 from Mason, 7 from Buck, and 9 from myself is Metal Gear Solid 1.
We're also pretty in line here.
Yeah.
This was the start of something beautiful for Kojima.
Yeah. What an impressively good PlayStation game.
Yeah, that's the wild part. Like, you could come up with a bunch of stinkers from the PlayStation library, and this one is like not only good but enduringly good.
Yeah. People still love this game for good reason.
Yeah.
I think some of the controls are fiddly and funky.
Yeah.
But
I think did this game predate the DualShock 1? It might have.
It came out in 98. I don't think so.
Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, like the story is like it's so insane to me to think that people on the PlayStation 1 got to experience this fully voice acted with incredible performances.
Yeah, with really
and
good
like
voice
a super good story on top of that. This could have been buried. This game, there's a world where this game just got buried and forgotten about. But no, it made the career of my favorite game designer in the whole world.
I think genuinely the only 2 things that hold this game back for me are the very, very ending where Meryl just explains everything.
Yeah,
and
the preach.
Just some shaky gameplay elements as a result of me being a zoomer.
Yeah, maybe so.
Gaming zoomer.
Like, I unironically like the Ken Love Bloom on a Battlefield scene. Most people cite that as like the high corny.
It's corny, but like it can be good too.
Yeah,
corny doesn't mean bad. I think people just equate those things too frequently.
I love the Ken Love Bloom on a Battlefield speech by Otacon or monologue. It's really good.
Psycho Mantis is still my favorite character from the first game.
It's
and also when people criticize things about like the Metal Gear world being corny or weird, it's always completely out of the context of having played the game and experienced it.
Yes,
and it's like, you can't
out of context. Love Can Bloom on the Battlefield is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
but in the context of Otacon, like having this like weird
romance with Sniper
pseudo
Wolf.
romance with Sniper Wolf it works.
I love it. It's not peak Metal Gear. It's just close. It's like hanging on to the coattails.
All right, coming in at number 6. The highest of the tiebreakers from the 7s with a rating of 10 from Mason, 4 from Buck, and 7 from myself. It is Chicory, A Colorful Tale.
Ooh, I love drawing.
It's so much fun.
I love dealing with trauma and imposter syndrome. I like weird little guys.
Yeah.
I like Zelda. I like 2D Zelda.
Yeah. This is a 2D Zelda game with weird little guys, and instead of very like tight, tedious combat. You just get to like paint.
Great stuff. Almost no combat, which I think works to its benefit.
It does.
This game is like truly special.
The music.
Yeah.
Everyone who walks up to you is like, "Hey, I need your help," and you're like, again. Well, you are a cute little owl guy. I guess you deserve to be
And
helped
your name
on that.
is like Omelet.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I guess I'll help you. If you were sad, I would cry forever. Also, the frog detective, very funny.
That guy has his own line of games. I hope you know.
That'll be the
there's just-
season three trilogy that we
Yeah.
cover
There's
is
just-
the frog
there's-
detectives.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of games. I think they're just called Frog Detective. They're on Steam.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, Lena Raine, obviously one of the greatest modern video game composers. Obviously one of the greats. I think we can safely say at this point with all
yeah.
the things she's done, things she's accomplished. But yeah, it's just Chicory's just like a nice, comfortable game, but it addresses a lot of like really interesting stuff of like not just trauma and like, you know, internalized doubt and stuff, but like I think it was also really, and like this isn't even a realization I thought about until recently. It was like it also deals with a lot of like trauma passed down through like jobs.
Yeah.
Like we don't think about how some like jobs just like cause people to be traumatized as a result of their training, you know, and in different ways. Like being traumatized as an artist is different than being traumatized as like a construction worker, and like having watched like extremely grotesque training videos or whatever. Right. That was like a really interesting thing to think about.
It's also a coming of age story that doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
coming of age stuff is like, what's it like to go through puberty and feel horny for the first time, which is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
This one is like, yeah, what's it like to know that like you're the only one who can fix certain problems, or like everyone in the world is like
Dependent on you.
panicking and winging it, and like they're gonna need your help. And it's like, oh yeah, that's like way cooler to think about than like what's it like to like a girl.
Yeah. All right, number 5, breaking into the top 5. This is where shit gets serious, especially because number 5 and number 4 both have one person from between us that rated it outside their top 10. So number 5, we have with Mason rating it at 3, myself rating it at 2, and Buck rating it at 14.
God damn.
For a 6.3, it is Pentiment.
Explain yourself.
Video game.
It is low game. It is low game. I give you that. It's low game.
On Pentiment, I know it's video game and also recency bias for other things, I think.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the story of Pentiment, but other than like thinking about the story, I don't ever think about Pentiment.
I gotcha.
I think a lot about Andreas and his like inability to get on with his life because of his inability to come to terms with like who he is as a person. I think that's all. I think the internal struggle of Andreas Mahler is like pretty compelling. I do think like, you know, compared to Outer Wilds, this game doesn't really do the mystery as well, but like the mystery in Pentiment is still like really well done, and like uncovering it throughout these 3 generations of Andreas's life, I thought was like a super like cool way to like have the story unfold, you know.
Also a choice-based game where the choices have real stakes and affect things that matter.
Yeah, impact things deeply into your playthrough, you know. And not in ways you would expect either, which is the other cool part. You know, I remember you talking about the religion thing where like you told them secular stories at bedtime, and that resulted in them getting burned at the stake when they were adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ludicrous stuff.
Thinking back on it, because I did my tier list a while ago, I do think a lot of it is specifically how much fun, like beyond the after story, it was how much fun did I have playing the video game.
Yeah.
And like I really enjoyed playing Pentiment, but like I wouldn't.
But not as a game.
Yeah, like I don't know it. Like it's not like fun to play when you're like trying to figure out who killed this person and you have a limited amount of time and
I found that pretty interesting.
I mean, it's I guess it's interesting, but not fun for me.
I thought
I'm talking about like happy like dopamine. Fun
sure.
Yeah.
is
I found it fun and engaging because it like forced me. So many mystery games like that give you like unlimited. You basically have like unlimited time to like figure things out.
Yeah.
So I thought the concept of like having basically no time and like having to rush to a conclusion was like pretty. That to me that was like pretty engaging and interesting and like fun because I felt like I was like really under the gun to like figure out the solution.
My favorite thing about that specifically was like, yeah, you have a limited amount of time. Here's all the things you can do. And some of them are just like fucking around for half the day.
Yeah.
And then it's like my game brain was like, oh, I'm going to gain something really unique from taking this very strange choice. And then I didn't because it's like you were sowing for what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, you gossiped with the women of the town.
You didn't
for
solve the
half a
mystery
day.
and now someone's going to die. It's so funny.
All right. Coming in at number 4 with a 3 from both me and Buck and an 11 from Mason with a 5.6. It is Not for Broadcast.
Okay, it's a good game. It's a good game. I love the bit comedy. I love that. FMVs are just weird to me. This was
weird.
like my first FMV game I've played all the way through, and I just didn't know how to like process everything and like I don't know. That's the only reason I rated it at 11.
yeah. You know, I don't even like love the politics and messaging of Not for Broadcast. I have some criticisms of it,
It's not perfect.
but
But they committed.
yeah, they did some committing to to some convictions, and like I just man, it's such a great experience. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
it just playing through the game is just so fun and so like there's so much like both like stakes and like I guess like skill and like it's never boring.
Yeah.
Right?
You're always
Right.
It's never boring.
You are forced to
And-
always be engaged. You don't have an option to not be engaged, you know?
Also, like one of the games that really captures like a stressful time-based decision well, which I think
Yeah.
a lot of games don't do, because you like see the little
You see the bleep coming.
Yeah, this 30-second timer's clicking down. And it's like, am I going to do it? Am I going to cause bloodshed in the streets, but like broadcast this separatist message? Can I have the blood on my hands? I've got 20 seconds. I got to figure this out. I've got to untangle this philosophical problem in 12 seconds.
I really also like I appreciate that this game does subvert expectations of doing a left-wing dictatorial government with a right-wing uprising.
Yeah.
Just because like the other way around is just always what we see because it's more common. Obviously, that's more likely what's going to happen a large majority of the time, and that's the world we live in. But I respect that they were willing to go the other way and just run with it and kind of talk about the absurdities, right?
Yeah, and like it's interesting because like when you have like I think it's obviously satire and comedy, but like I think it's funny how the rebels are just like a bunch of rich people who wanna
Yeah.
They're just funded. They're funded by billionaires. So like even in the subverting of your expectations, they just go a layer deeper and then like unsubvert them by being like exactly what you would think it is.
It's like, I don't want to say refreshing because refreshing is not the word. It's very interesting to understand like critiques of a left-wing society that aren't remnants of some stupid American anti-communist movement.
Yeah. I mean,
it's what if they start euthanizing your grandma? And it's like
the death centers.
I don't know. I
thought
never
were,
thought
like,
about
really
that.
Cool. Like that's and that's just like if you think about it, a lot of what's happening in Canada, where they are literally just putting people to death for very minor like health conditions or being homeless. That's been a thing that's been a concern. Is like, oh well, you're unhoused, so maybe you're just better off being dead. And that's kind of what like the death centers are like in Not for Broadcast. So like
very cool to see someone explore that space from a not stupid way.
Yeah, it felt very smart. It felt like the writers were very intentional, and I could tell that the writers themselves were probably left leaning, probably maybe left idealists, but not practical. So they had a lot of the ideas, and they were able to iterate them in a way that actually like made sense.
Yeah.
You know, an extreme progression of a leftist concept, which was really good.
Also,
right.
the bits were great. Bit comedy.
The game is incredibly funny.
Bit comedy. Very
Far and
funny.
away the
So
funniest game
funny.
we played all
Sports
season.
ball,
Yeah.
hilarious. Sports ball, so funny.
All right. Number 3, what I think we would all agree was the hidden gem of the season. Something that I put on the list and did not expect to hit as hard as it did, but I'm really glad it did. With a 4 from myself and Mason and a 6 from Buck for a 4.6, it is Norco.
When I
Holy
said
shit.
Exocolonist was my favorite indie thing, I knew I probably rated something higher.
Yeah.
I actually the reason Norco is higher is because I think it is better.
It is.
Like I still think Exocolonist is like my favorite thing,
Yeah.
but
But
like in terms of a game and a
Critically.
story, critically,
Yeah.
I think Norco is better. Man, Norco is so good.
it is.
This game saw me as a person.
It is impressive.
This game,
This game was made by like one guy.
Yahtzee, right?
Yahtzee, yeah.
So good.
How
What
did he do
the
that?
hell? Is it RPG Maker game?
No, it's
No.
not RPG Maker.
Oh my
No,
god!
and he did all the pixel art and actually absurd.
This game saw me as a person and explored fears and realities that I've just like lived through and thought about, and it was just like, wow. And it did it all while being high game, and it did it all while being emotionally captivating and funny, and by being one of the games that made me cry. What the fuck?
Not expected from a gothic punk.
A one guy project about the horrors of climate change.
Yeah. And like Eldritch Horror computer bird.
I do love Eldritch Horror stuff. I wish
It's
there was
cool.
more Eldritch Horror stuff, because I think this is like besides Parasite Eve, which did do some. I guess that is also Eldritch Horror.
It's conceptually, I think,
Yeah.
in that realm.
But like, I'm surprised there's not more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, y'all tell me if this is anything. Y'all seen that Command and Conquer 3 clip where Tim Curry's like, I'm
gonna
going
go
to
the one
space.
place. Yeah.
That, but it's the Ditch Man.
Yeah. A place that hasn't been corrupted by secularism. Norco, God, I remember like seeing it on Steam. And I think it got recommended to me because it was like, because you played Disco Elysium. And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
And then
sure.
I played Norco. I was like, what the fuck did I just experience? Because
You watched me play that whole game, right?
Yeah.
There's just parts of that game that were just like, you flick the light on and it's the guy who's got cancer, and you're just like, oh my god. You turn the light on, it's not a monster. It's like
just a
something
guy.
that's also equally horrifying to behold, but in just a completely different way.
It's terrifying, but not because it's scary.
No.
It's not a jump scare. It's
You're watching
terrifying
like
because of the
lonely man at the end of his life.
Yeah.
No one comes to visit him.
had his son died because of he died in an explosion, and he's had cancer living next to a oil refinery his
And
entire
a horrible
adult life.
monster grew out of a copy of his brain.
Yeah.
God damn.
Play Norco. God, play Norco. That's
Norco's
like
so good.
that is like the best indie game. I guess technically we have one rated higher, but like under the radar, like people probably haven't heard about this game enough. Like play Norco.
And I'm curious, if you're a Yank, tell me what you think about this game.
Yeah.
Because like,
Lost Southern roots.
yeah, because I think that's a big part of why it resonated so much with me, is being from the South.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right. Now we're moving into S plus tier. The two games that really stood head and shoulders above the rest had at least one person put it as their top one game for the season, starting with a ranking of 1 from Mason, 2 from Buck, and 5 from myself. I think that's right.
That sounds right to me.
With a 2.6, it is Metal Gear Solid 2.
It's the best Metal Gear game.
Best
It's
Metal
the
Gear
Best
game.
Metal Gear game.
And it's a masterpiece in its own right and within the series. an absolute masterpiece of a game. It started all the jokes of like, is Hideo Kojima burdened by the curse of prophecy? Because the man was spitting so hard he told the future.
Yeah.
Wild.
I just, again, like Metal Gear being like such an amazing PlayStation 1 game. Metal Gear Solid 2 is an amazing PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, man.
I think the biggest thing that concerns me about this game, and the only reason I had to rank it a little lower, is that the way this game could go from being a 9.5 to like a 4 out of 10 is razor thin, and it all hinges on the ending.
Yeah.
If they didn't stick the landing on the ending, this game would be like terrible. People would hate it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were able to stick the landing so thoroughly was like,
I wonder.
it's all good. We're all good.
I wonder what kind of planning it took to be able to tie all that up in a satisfying and like prescient way. You know, not only
This almost feels like an experience where Kojima kind of had the ending in mind first,
Yeah.
and then worked backwards and like kind of let the threads unspool out.
yeah, kind of like, well, what would
Into
happen
all
if it
the
ended like
aspects.
this? Well,
Yeah.
then this would have to happen. Yeah, it feels that way, but like not in a way that like bad Hollywood movies are like, oh, well, let's say we want a cool gunfight. Well, then there would need to be a cool action hero here. No, just like in very like thoughtful ways. And like it's my favorite game of all time.
Not what if cool gunfight, what if cool sword fight.
Ooh. What if,
Metal Gear Rising Revenge.
it takes a real genius and a very good script to be like, yeah, we're going to close on a sword fight with the president. And that's not just complete garbage, you know? Like what
Yeah, you have to-
what you're saying,
Like
right?
it's like the ridiculousness of Kojima, where we're just gonna call him Solidus Snake.
yeah. But it all works. Only because of the last 2 hours.
Yep.
It's just like gets it.
And the gameplay is good enough. It's like better enough from the first one that like it made a noticeable difference. It's not like perfect by any means. It's not Metal Gear Solid 3. If you took Metal Gear Solid 3 gameplay and just interspersed it into Metal Gear Solid 2,
You think that'd be the perfect game or something?
it'd be the perfect Metal Gear game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, if at this point, dear listener, I'm sure none of you are going to be surprised about what number one game on the list is. I think, it's our most popular episode. It's our most listened to episode, with a rating of 1 from Buck and myself and a rating from 2 from Mason because he's stupid and I hate him.
No, I'm right.
For an average of 1.3, Disco Elysium. I've been thinking about this game recently, and I was talking about Mason about it the other night. I think this is legitimately a perfect game. I cannot find any flaws in this game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there is a single thing wrong with it.
One of the best pieces of fiction I have ever experienced.
Yeah.
Movies, books, whatever.
I cried twice during this game, and I played a funny little joke man. This game is, the trip it takes you on is so fucking wild,
Yeah.
so out of pocket for like a murder mystery game, and it's like, no, you're like there for the whole time. You're bought in completely,
Yep.
and it's amazing, and all the characters are perfect.
Yeah.
And some of them are tragic, and some of them are funny, but they're all just like so human.
Yeah. But it's like the best writing of any of the games we played, the best characters of any of the games we played,
Best world
the
building.
best world building of any of the games we played.
Like,
Some of the best gameplay elements of any of the games we played. Like the gameplay matters so much to everything else you experience.
can you? Okay, like I'm not capping here. Can you imagine another game where like how you distribute your stats matters so
No,
much?
No, there's
it's not
not.
possible.
There isn't one.
It's not possible. Literally, the way you distribute your stats determines how the entire story plays out.
I wish I could know exactly what person first conceptualized the thought cabinet and start a new religion revering that person. That's the smartest idea in any choice-based RPG ever. Ever. It's not close. The thought cabinet is gameplay perfection.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with Disco Elysium. It is a perfect game. It is a 10 out of 10. I don't think there is another game I have ever played that is a 10 out of 10. This is the only 10 out of 10 game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, the more I just can't poke any holes.
You are steeled in your resolve every time you reflect.
I think I think I could talk down any argument people could come up to me with.
Yeah.
The only argument you can possibly make about Disco Elysium not being a 10 out of 10 is just because you don't like CRPGs. That is the only reason you will not like this game.
And
I think, I honestly think even if you don't like CRPGs, there will be something you like about Disco Elysium.
Yep. I think the fact that we've recently had news that Zaum Art Collective is not going to be pursuing another game in the Disco Elysium series.
Yeah.
I think that is unironically the best
outcome.
The best outcome.
Best outcome with all the weird screwed up stuff that's even
it is still very unclear, even with a multiple part people make games documentary on what went down. It's still so unclear how
what
things
actually is going on.
Yeah, and how that group of fuck ups and greedy, horrible money men came up with the best peak fiction.
Yeah.
And that, you know what? Made the perfect game. Leave it alone. We already have it.
This is why everyone needs to shut up about any corporation ever being good or bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly why you should never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially when it comes to art. Like, art, I think the argument that the art has to exist separate from the artist is fucking stupid. And you should never buy into that philosophy, especially if the artist is still alive. That's the most important thing. If the artist is still alive, you have to separate the art from the artist, because consuming the art directly benefits the artist. So if they're a horrible person, you're benefiting horrible people. That's beside the point. Just play Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
Now, I want to bring a different spin on what you've said. Sometimes people who are terrible and abuse their coworkers or say terrible things, like, have important things to say that connect with us as human beings.
Yeah.
You don't always have an obligation to buy and support those things, because sometimes those people are advocating for, like, genocide or, like, being terrible. But, like, we all have flaws, and that doesn't mean that we don't have important things to say.
Right. Yeah. It's
I'm not.
It's about gauging the level of your horror.
Yeah,
basically, what we're saying
you have to
is,
make a judgment call.
what we're saying is,
basis.
God, just read a different book. Guys, you're not
read Harry
13.
Potter.
Stop playing Harry Potter.
Why was that dumb fuck Harry Potter game the top selling?
You can
game
play
of last
any.
year?
You can, like, hyperfixate on anything else.
She made a $700,000 donation to a right wing politician. I'm not getting into this right now. I'm going to get heated.
Anyways, play Disco Elysium.
It's perfect.
It's perfect game.
It's perfect.
Literally the perfect game.
It's literally the perfect game.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I give Disco Elysium a 5 out of 5.
All right. Well, there it is.
Did you set that up to say that? I hate you so much. You set that shit up at the beginning to say I give Disco Elysium 5 stars.
Played the long con.
Fuck you.
Played the long con. The longest con.
Damn it, Buck. Oh, I wasn't prepared.
Oh.
I wasn't prepared, man.
Well, that brings us. I think that wraps up season 1 very nicely. We'll do another one of these for season 2. This will be a fixture of every season we do, and any games we cover in mini-sodes between seasons will go on the tier list for the season that follows it. So we'll still cover those in detail.
When you say your prayers tonight, pray for more Disco Elysiums and fewer Dishonoreds.
Yes.
For us specifically.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.